My name is Kinsley, and today I'm going to be showing you how to do some indoor gardening. So what I'm actually going to be showing you is how to make a portable pollinator or bee garden. I know this kind of seems weird to have a bee garden inside your house, but I figured you could learn some of the basic ideas behind gardening while also learning how to take care of our fuzzy pollinator friends. So here's everything you're going to need. I have a pot with a hole in the bottom, and then a plate to put it on top of so that water doesn't get everywhere. I have a bowl, and I only have a bowl because I'm doing this inside, and I'm gonna have to get some dirt some places, and I don't want it to be all over my table, and so I have a bowl for that. Water, indoor potting soil mix. So this is something that's actually really important to have potting soil and not like outdoor bed soil because it has different stuff in it. And also if you're doing a particular kind of plant, like if you're planting succulents, you need to make sure you're getting soil that is appropriate for that. If you are not getting something like a succulent, just a generic indoor potting soil works really well. So I have the Miracle-Gro indoor potting mix for a wide variety of container plants. And then I have plants. So these plants have been especially chosen with like pollinators in mind. So my first plant right here, I have lavender. So lavender's really great because pollinators really love it, but also it smells very soothing, right? We think lavender is a really soothing scent. So it's a really great thing to have in your dorm room because whenever you get a little stressed or whatever, you might just catch the little whiff of lavender, nice and soothing. Plus I love purple, and lavender is a beautiful purple plant. Next, I have dahlias. Dahlias are also really fun just because they come in a ton of different colors. They're super bright, there's a ton of different sizes. So this is a pretty small dahlia because I'm going to be using a relatively small container, but I adore dahlias. Now I have a variegated sedum. This is actually not a pollinator plant, but you need something like short that's going to stick close to the ground to kind of fill in some extra area, which we'll talk about a little bit more later in the video. Now I have a Blue Days Evolvulus, maybe. This is another trailing plant, but this has purple blooming flowers, which I really like. I'm pretty sure this is one of the plants that you see a lot in central Pennsylvania, like out with all those little tiny purple flowers on it. Yes, I really like that. And then I have a Latana. These also come in a ton of colors. I usually associate these as being called butterfly weed, but butterfly weed honestly might be a different plant. I brought yellow ones, but they come in like red, pink, orange. You have ones that have multiple colors. I think this is a beautiful plant. So something else to really consider when you are picking out plants is how much sun you're gonna get where you're keeping them. So a lot of dorm rooms actually don't get a lot of sun unless you have a window that gets a ton of sun. Usually like a south-facing window gets the most sun generally. All of the plants that I have in front of me are full sun plants, means that they like a lot of sun. So if I'm gonna be keeping them indoors, I need to make sure they're in a window that gets a ton of sun and that they're not like tucked away in a corner somewhere. When you go to like Home Depot or Lowe's or whatever, there are little tags on all of your plants. Let me see if I can pull one off right here. And on the tag, it's gonna tell you how much sun it needs, how much water it needs, how big it's gonna grow, and how to care for it. So the big thing is you really wanna look for are the amount of sunlight it's going to need and the amount of water. So you don't wanna put something that only wants to get watered like once every 2 weeks in the same container as a plant that likes to have wet soil. So that's really, really important. So making sure you're looking at that information. The care information is more just like helpful for things like trimming, that sort of stuff. You don't really need to worry about that for just like basic small scale gardening unless you want to get really into it. Because honestly, unless you want your plant to grow really big, you don't need to honestly do that much work for it for most plants. So once you've established the plants that you want to get by looking at how much sunlight you're going to get in the window you're going to put them in, temperature is another big thing. So less of a big thing for indoor planting because you're not going to get like frost indoor. But if you're going to be outdoor planting, making sure that your plants can handle how cold it's going to get outside is really important. Once you've figured all that out, you can start planting. So I'm not going to put all of these plants in this pot. This is not a very big pot, and these are a lot of plants. I mostly got these plants because I wanted a variety, and also Home Depot was out of these size pots. They only had one left, so that's kind of why I ended up with one. So you're going to take your pot and your soil, get the bag open, and I'm just going to pour a little bit in the bottom to give me a base. So these plants all obviously are already in soil, so I don't want to like fill this sucker up. I'm going to put this underneath just to keep soil from leaking out. And I don't know, pouring like a couple inches into the bottom of the potter. Pack that down a little bit. All right. So, another thing to think about when you're picking plants and when you're building your pot is what you want it to look like. So one of the like phrases that kind of comes up in gardening is you need a thriller, a filler, and a spiller. So you need something bright, colorful, that's really going to catch the eye, something to kind of fill in those extra spaces, and then something that's going to keep like low to the ground and kind of spill out, especially in like a pot. So for my thriller, I think I'm going to use this dahlia. I really like the bright pink. The flowers are really close together. I'm going to actually use lavender for my filler, which I'm not sure if it's traditionally considered a filler, but that way I can have like the dahlia in the middle and something tall in the back. That's another thing to look for is height when you're looking at like designing your pot. And that's something else too, that if you just want like plants, you don't really need to worry about designing like a beautiful potted plant. You can just stick one of these plants in a pot, water it as often as it tells you to, boom, magic. And then for my spiller, I think I'm actually going to use this variegated sedum. I am choosing this because it's really low to the ground. This one's a little bit fluffier, and since the lavender has like a ton of leaves, I don't want it to look too busy. So I'm going to start by placing the dahlia in the middle. So I have my thriller, my dahlia, and dahlias are full sun. This is actually a dwarf dahlia, so it's not going to get super big. According to the tag, it is deer resistant, so that's interesting. And they like to be kept in like relatively damp soil, dahlias do. So we're going to squish our little plastic pot. We're going to grab it down at the bottom close to the soil and just pull it out. Give it a little wiggle. Boom. So you'll see that the roots are like really tight up in there. So you're just gonna like wiggle that. You'll hear little crunches a little bit. Break that root ball apart a little bit, get it nice and loosened up. And this is why I have the bowl, because I have soil falling all over the place. All right, and once you get that nice and loosened up, I'm just gonna plop this into the center of my pot. So looking right now, I've plopped it down to my pot, and it's a little bit too low in my opinion. So I'm gonna throw a little bit more soil in the bottom. I'm gonna put the soil that fell off of it in there first. And I'll just grab some more soil. All right, now let's see how this looks. All right, so I think that's an okay height. So I'm going to press that down in there, and it's just kind of going to chill for a second while we get the lavender ready. Actually, I'm going to make it a little bit taller. So you don't want the plant like spilling out of the top of your pot, but you want to make sure that it is all the way out of the pot when you're filling the soil. All right, so now we have our lavender. The lavender, it is also full sun, like I said earlier, and lavender also likes to stay relatively damp. So that is good for what we are planting. Sorry, my outdoor neighbors are fixing their roof and it's a little loud. Okay, so same thing, we're gonna squish the pot around, grab low at the base of the plant, give it a squeeze, a squish, and out we go. And then we're gonna break up the roots again. So this one had a lot of extra soil on top that wasn't really being held by the roots, so I have a lot more soil falling into my bowl. Okay, and then once we get those nice and wiggled, nice and loose, I'm gonna pop these behind the dahlia. So obviously in a circular pot, what is behind is up to you. Spreading that out. And if stuff's kind of falling over, that's all right, because you'll pack a little bit more soil in there, and that'll kind of help it to stay supported. Okay, so now I have my lavender, which is falling over a little bit, but like I said, we'll throw some more soil in there and that'll help it stay up. my dahlia. And then I have this like open space like right here, right on the side. So what I'm gonna throw over there is my spiller, my sedum. So, same thing, sedum likes full sun. It likes to stay wet, at least for the first year. And it's gonna kind of spread out a little bit, fill in some of those gaps. So we're squishing the pot, grabbing low at the root system, and then giving it a little wiggle. Oh, there's a worm in here. It's all right, because worms are our friends. A little squish, loosen up those roots, and then we're just gonna pop it right into the empty space. So it's okay if you have a little bit of like open soil. You don't want to give your plants room to grow. You don't want to overcrowd them. So realistically, I probably should have put these in a little bit of a bigger pot. They'll probably be okay though. Some plants, if you don't give them the bigger pot, will die, and some are fine. So succulents can stay in a small pot for a really long time. Other plants need a little room to grow. So now I'm just going to take this extra soil that I have in here, or my potting mix, and just fill in the rest of the pot. So pressing it down in there, making sure my plants are nice and supported from all sides, and that everything feels nice and stable. Go. Back here next to the lavender. Oh, the lavender smells so good. Alright, and then once you get all your soil nice and packed in there, okay, you're just going to give it a nice, good water. So you want to make sure it's nice and soaked. Mess a little bit. So that's another advantage of having the little plate underneath, is as the water like seeps through the soil, it'll pool in the plate, and then you can make sure that you are fully watering these plants. And a lot of potting soil will really hold a fair amount of water, which is good for these kind of plants because they like to be very wet. But like I said earlier, for something like a succulent, holding a lot of water is not good. And then just look again and make sure there aren't any spots that you feel like need some more soil now the water has kind of pressed down a lot of the soil. So I think I might need a little bit more around the lavender to keep it nice and supported. Yeah, so here is our little tiny pollinator garden. So if you do decide to actually do a pollinator garden that you want to have inside in your dorm room, you can always like take it outside with you in the spring to get some sun. You and your plant can tan. It's really good for the plant, also really good for you, and really good for the bees. Yeah, so I hope that you learned something about gardening, and good luck in the future planting your own little dorm room gardens. Thank you for joining me.